Greetings everyone from Calakmul, Mexico in Campeche. We are here in this beautiful archaeological site at the top of structure 7. Also you can see behind us, I'm not entirely sure what the number of this structure is, but it's an incredibly impressive view. I'm going to talk with you today about some of the Maya cultural foodways and how those foodways fit into their way of life and into their living situation. And we're also going to add a little bonus at the end talking about mosquitoes, because this is a very, very humid climate and mosquitoes are everywhere. So we're going to talk a little bit about how to prevent those mosquitoes by means of your diet and what you can eat. We'll also talk a lot more about corn and how that fit into Maya foodways, more specifically to this region. Hello everyone, so now we are on the other monument. The one that we were just on previously is directly behind me. You can see it in the background. So you are now facing south, that's to the south, and where I am is to the north. So I want to talk to you about corn. I've talked to you before in a video about corn, one of my first videos at a previous archaeological site, Campeche. I talk a lot about corn, but I want to talk about it a little bit more here because maize was so huge here and played a huge role in the architecture that we're looking at. So some of the primary occupations that the Maya people had was processing corn for food and different ways to do that. So corn, there's a processing place for corn over here on my right and your left. And then there's one also on the other side. So corn, there was usually one person who would grind the corn, and then there was another person who would then cook the corn into different baked goods and create something with it. When they were grinding the corn, sometimes they would just use something like a mortar and pestle, but more often they would take a large stone and hollow it out, gradually over time with another piece of stone with either greater density or one that was similar. They would put a very small amount of water into it with the corn, so that would create an abrasive surface that they were able to grind the corn against, and then that would then be processed further. Another key component of this that I just mentioned was water. So the Maya people were storing water in aguadas, which are sort of like these large kettles that were sometimes directly carved out of stone, sometimes they were carved into the ground and then lined with sort of like a limestone, almost like a plaster, and then they were filled with water, or also sometimes they channeled the water from an outside source. And then they used that same water and they would channel it to different parts of the Maya forest garden, it's called, where they were growing all of these different things as an irrigation system. So one of the things that I want to mention in terms of health today is water. Water is obviously extremely important to our health, consuming most of our body, providing hydration, providing energy, fuel, so on and so forth, enabling us to detox more quickly. So the quality of our water is hugely important. And believe it or not, a lot of people don't know this, but some of the highest quality, most nutrient-dense water you can find is from rainwater. So collecting and harvesting rainwater is just of extraordinary value. Drinking water out of plastic bottles is obviously not good, whether it has BPA or even if it says BPA free, then it has BPS, and which is even worse than BPA, as it turns out. So this is not good either, obviously. So what we want to do is really be getting clean water. So we can obviously, get tap water, well water, and filter it. That's one method that a lot of people use. But another method would be to just harvest rainwater. And it is, as I'm speaking about water, it is raining. The universe has heard me speak. This rainwater would also be collected in these aguadas and channeled to the forest garden. So in terms of gardening, they had a system called the milpas system. Milpas is sort of like, it was originally coined for like a cornfield, but it became a cycle that they used for a lot of their produce and the items that they grew. And the milpas cycle is essentially a cycle of slash and burn agriculture that they would gear toward the seasons. So you have a rainy season, in which case it was much easier because you were getting more hydration. And then you have really dry summers, and after harvest time, their autumn, they would burn everything to so that the other stuff could grow. They were very common in Europe, and it was common here too, and it was just called the Miltness cycle. We are now at another part of Calakmul, on another piece of monumental Maya architecture. I want to talk to you a little bit more about heart health, because it becomes a bit of a question with Maya people because their diets are so high in corn, a lot of other fats and carbohydrates. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about how they maintain their heart health and how we can do that in our culture as well. So first and foremost is exercise. One of the best exercises for heart health is climbing stairs. As you can see behind me, and also down in front of me, there are tons of stairs. I have not been keeping count, but today I've climbed maybe around 6 or 7 of these so far, varying heights and levels of steepnesses, and I can attest to the fact for sure that they were getting a huge amount of exercise, and it is excellent for the heart. The particular type of exercise is called hormetic stress. It releases a stream of free radicals into the body, which periodically puts enough stress on our mitochondria and our cellular health that the cells become stronger and more resistant to other stressors. So in addition to this, we can also look at the diet. A big part of their diet obviously was corn, which, believe it or not, is actually fairly good for heart health, as I mentioned in one of my previous videos. Also, there are certain things like chaya, which is commonly grown here. On the way here, actually, I had this incredible dish that was made with chaya. Chaya is really high in a lot of different minerals and vitamins, but the primary one is magnesium. Magnesium is found in a lot of different leafy green vegetables like kale, Swiss chard, so on and so forth. In chaya, the magnesium levels are very high, which is excellent for heart health at lowering blood pressure and stabilizing heart rhythms if you have any sort of arrhythmia. Also common in the Maya culture are chia seeds. More common now than they would have been back then. It's not easy to amass the quantity that you would need to be able to eat them regularly, but nevertheless, they're a part of the diet. They're very high in omega-3s, proteins, and fibers that are excellent for the heart and overall body health. Hello everyone, we are now at another part of Calakmul. We are in a domicile, a house that the Maya people would have lived in. There are a whole bunch around here. It's very similar to like a condominium type complex that we would have today. Behind me is an area where there would have been a bed. As you know, since most of you listening are probably from North America, at night when it gets humid, just as it is humid here, the mosquitoes come out and start biting people like crazy, and it drives everybody nuts. And I can imagine that it would have driven the Mayan people nuts as well. So, how did they protect themselves from the mosquitoes, and how can we protect ourselves from mosquitoes? There are a lot of different things you can do. Nowadays, we can use all sorts of bug sprays. You can, if you don't want the chemicals, which I'm a big proponent of. I'm not a proponent of the chemicals, I'm a proponent of not using the chemicals. You can use things like essential oils in like water and then spray it on. You can use certain, they make certain natural mosquito repellents that you can buy at the store. But one of the facets that people commonly neglect is what they eat. Here in Mexico, what people do is their diets, and I don't know whether they realize this or not, but their diets are largely mosquito repelling. So the food that people eat gets excreted through our sweat, which creates a smell. And our sweat is usually what attracts the mosquitoes. Sweat, dirt, things like that, the mosquitoes absolutely love. So what we can do is change the, to some extent, almost not the composition of our blood, but the way it smells to mosquitoes, and also the way our sweat smells as it exudes out of our skin. So we can do that by eating certain things like onions, garlic, things that have a high sulfur content and have really strong smells. For instance, today, before coming to this site, for 3 days, I took allicin, A-L-L-I-C-I-N, which is the active component in garlic, so it doesn't smell quite as strong, but I took that 2 times a day, 3 days leading up to being here, and I haven't gotten bitten once, while some of the people that I've been with have gotten bitten multiple times, so that's a testament to how effective it is. You can also incorporate garlic and onions into your food, of course. Some of the other things that people in Mexico commonly eat, and that the Maya probably would have eaten as well, would be beans. Potentially tomatoes to some extent. Tomatoes are nightshades, so they have a high acid content, which can also repel mosquitoes. And then finally, in addition to that, one of the really big things that we can do is eat citrus. Citrus and mosquitoes do not go hand in hand at all. People in this region ate a lot of limes primarily. In some places lemons are available, in other places not. Limes are more common. There are also oranges, of course, but oranges don't have quite the potency that a lime or a lemon would. So eating things like that in your diet are also highly beneficial. If you're using essential oils, just like what works inside can also work outside, so lemon essential oil, orange essential oil, grapefruit, any sort of citrusy essential oil will also work to prevent mosquitoes. Thank you so much for joining me here today, and I hope to see you next time. Adios.